Imagine stepping into just a bustling corporate corridor on a crisp morning, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And you see two young business people rapidly exchanging words. Maybe they're talking about, I don't know, a wedding ring, or maybe they're hashing out their weekend plans.
Just everyday stuff.
Exactly. And on the surface, it just looks like idle chatter. But if you freeze that fleeting, mundane moment, what you are actually witnessing is this micro miracle of human synchronization.
It really is. It's wild when you break it down.
Right. So today we are taking a deep dive into the NOBA Discovering Psychology textbook, specifically Chapter 17 on Language and Language Use by Yoshihisa Kashima.
A fantastic chapter.
Yeah, we're using it to unpack how that everyday chatter is actually like the ultimate behavioral window into how you unconsciously construct your entire social world.
Because it's not just talking.
No, not at all. We're looking at the mechanics of how language dictates the replication of human biases and, incredibly, how you physically alter your own brain chemistry just by opening your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this from an evolutionary, structural, and deeply psychological level, you realize that language is not just some passive tool we use to transmit facts.
Right.
Every single conversation you have today, whether it's just a passing greeting in the hallway or a massive, deep debate, it is actively shaping your neurological reality.
Which is huge. But to understand the mechanics of how that actually happens, we first have to look at why we are so biologically driven to talk to each other all day long in the first place.
Exactly. And we can trace that drive back to Robin Dunbar's social brain hypothesis.
Okay, lay that out for us.
So Dunbar proposed this incredibly provocative idea, right? He said the massive human neocortex, the part of our brain responsible for higher order thinking, spatial reasoning, all that conscious thought, it didn't evolve just so we could invent tools or, solve abstract math problems.
Which is what we usually think, right? We think, oh, big brain means better at math.
Exactly.
Huh.
But Dunbar argues it evolved specifically to handle social gossip in groups of roughly 150 people.
Wait, gossip as an evolutionary imperative.
Yes. And the numbers back it up, actually. The text highlights this jaw-dropping statistic. 60 to 70% of our everyday casual speech is just social gossip.
That's a lot of our day just talking about other people.
It is. But from an anthropological perspective, it acts as the human equivalent of social grooming.
Oh, like monkeys.
Exactly. You see primates spending hours picking bugs out of each other's fur, right? And they do that to bond, to lower heart rates, and to establish hierarchy. Well, humans simply replace the physical grooming with vocal grooming.
We just talk instead of picking bugs.
Right. We talk about each other. We share vital representations of our community, which allows us to regulate behaviors, enforce norms, and figure out who is a reliable partner to hunt or gather with.
Okay, I can see the bonding aspect, sure.
Yeah.
But if 70% of what we say every single day is just gossiping about who did what to whom, aren't we wasting a massive amount of cognitive energy on just, trivialities?
Well, it only feels trivial if you view language purely as an encyclopedia, like a sterile information delivery system.
Right.
But gossip is the evolutionary glue of human survival. Without the ability to map complex social alliances, who is mad at whom, who shares resources, who is a freeloader, maintaining a cohesive, cooperative group of 150 people would be biologically impossible.
Because you just wouldn't know who to trust.
Exactly. Our ancestors relied entirely on that social network to survive famines and predators. So the drive to communicate social dynamics is permanently baked into our biology.
And, the textbook points out a historical moment that proves just how deeply baked into our biology that drive really is.
Oh, the Nicaraguan study, yes.
Yeah, this blew my mind. So in the 1980s in Nicaragua, there was a generation of deaf children who had been completely isolated. Like they had no formal language training, no exposure to signing, just their own homemade gestures, basically.
Right, they were completely disconnected linguistically.
Exactly. And when they were finally brought together to a newly established school, the instructors tried to teach them a standardized adult Spanish sign language, but the children completely bypassed it.
They didn't even use it.
No. They spontaneously invented their own fully functioning, grammatically complex sign language right there on the playground.
It's amazing. They didn't just mimic what they were shown. They organically generated a completely new linguistic structure.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. It proves that human beings don't just possess, a latent capacity to learn a language if one is provided. We have an overwhelming innate impulse to create one.
Right, we just have to communicate.
Exactly. We will forge a shared reality through communication, no matter what environmental barriers exist.
It's almost like language isn't just an app we download after we're born, right?
Yeah.
It's the actual operating system we are hardwired to build from scratch the moment we encounter another human being.
I love that analogy.
Hmm.
And if gossip and social connection are our foundational operating system, the next layer to examine is the actual code of that system.
The nuts and bolts.
Right. When you open your mouth, you are instantly doing two things unconsciously.
Yeah.
You are pulling from your lexicon, which is your mental dictionary, the total catalog of available words in your language.
Okay, lexicon is the dictionary.
Right. And you are stringing them together using syntax, which is the underlying grammatical code. It's the strict rules that dictate how you arrange those words so they actually convey your intended meaning.
But the lexicon and syntax are just the raw materials, right? Because I definitely don't use the same dictionary or the same sentence structure when I talk to my boss as I do when I talk to, like, a toddler.
No, of course not.
Alex.
And that's because before a dialogue can even begin, both people have to establish what psychologists call common ground.
Common ground.
Yeah, this is the baseline web of mutual knowledge, the shared beliefs and cultural assumptions that you and I just take for granted when we speak.
So, like, I don't have to explain what a car is before I tell you about my commute.
Exactly. You don't want to explain what a steering wheel is every time you tell a story about driving. You assume that common ground exists, which saves massive amounts of cognitive load.
Right, that makes sense.
And as the conversation progresses, speakers engage in something called audience design.
Audience design, okay?
Yeah, you continuously tailor the complexity of your lexicon and your syntax to match the perceived knowledge level and social status of whoever's listening to you.
So audience design is essentially like being a DJ.
A DJ. I like that.
Yeah, you are constantly reading the room, checking the crowd's energy, and adjusting the track list on the fly so nobody loses the beat of the conversation.
That is exactly what it is. We do this constantly, starting from a very young age, and it has profound developmental impact.
I mean, it must.
There is a brilliant psychology study detailing this in action from the 2016 Behavioral Neuroscience Journal by Mascaro, Hackett, and Rilling. They attach recording devices to fathers to track their everyday language patterns as they interacted with their children in natural settings.
Just normal, everyday interactions at home.
Exactly.
And the researchers discovered that the fathers were performing audience design without even realizing it, right?
Totally unconsciously. The fathers were unknowingly tailoring their lexicon based entirely on their child's gender.
Wow.
Yeah, when we look at the transcripts of fathers talking to their daughters, we see them using significantly more analytical, complex, and academic words.
Really? With their daughters?
Yeah, they also used more vocabulary related to the human body and emotions. Picture a dad at the kitchen table with his daughter saying something like, look at the mechanics of this puzzle. Can you see how the pieces connect?
Okay, so very analytical.
Right. But when talking to their sons, those same fathers shifted their lexicon away from analytical terms and leaned heavily into competition-oriented vocabulary.
So instead of look at the mechanics, it becomes like, let's see who can build the highest tower before it crashes.
Precisely. And this isn't malicious, it's an unconscious social reflex. But think about the compound interest of those vocabulary choices over a decade.
That's massive.
It is. This early audience design within a family structure unconsciously sculpts a child's cognitive boundaries.
So just think critically for a second, right? How do the specific words your family uses at home change when they talk to you versus your siblings or your peers?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
Because the vocabulary you are steeped in sets your baseline expectations of the world. It subtly shapes your confidence as you step into a college classroom or navigate a professional boardroom later in life. We literally build the walls of our reality with the words we hear most often.
Which brings up the real challenge of learning. If we are constantly tailoring our words to an existing common ground, how do we successfully introduce a brand new, highly complex concept into that shared space?
Right, because if I bring up a topic, absolutely nothing about, how do we keep the interaction from completely breaking down?
Exactly, because you don't have the dictionary for it yet.
Right, I'm completely lost.
So this is where Herbert Clark's theories on conversational synchronization come into play. When you introduce a novel statement, you can't just keep talking blindly like a lecturer reading from a script.
You just lose them.
Right. The listener has to quickly provide some evidence of comprehension, a nod, an or a yeah. This completes what psychologists call an adjacency pair.
Oh, so it's an active verification process. Like if I say, I went to the store, and you just stare at me blankly in silence, the conversation
Right.
stalls.
It feels super awkward.
I have to stop and figure out if you even heard me.
Exactly. And only after you receive that nod or vocalization is the new information officially integrated into your common ground.
Okay, so the nod is the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to keep this transfer smooth when dealing with difficult material, we rely on a mechanism called interactive alignment.
Interactive alignment, what is that?
When two people are deep in conversation, they unconsciously start mirroring each other. We adopt each other's syntax, we reuse the specific nouns the other person just used, we even match each other's speech rates and pitch.
Wait, really? I mean, I understand mirroring body language to build rapport, but if I'm actively mirroring your syntax and your speech rate, am I just subconsciously trying to flatter you, or is something structural happening in my brain?
It's deeply structural.
Yeah.
This systemic alignment triggers a phenomenon known as priming.
Priming.
Yeah. Hearing a specific linguistic concept automatically activates a whole network of related ideas in your brain.
Mm.
By aligning our words, we are literally building a shared mental architecture.
That's why.
And a 2019 study by Wiley and Shelton in the Journal of Educational Psychology proved how vital this is for mastering new information. They look at students engaged in collaborative learning tasks, reading complex scientific texts.
And they found that the students who actively explained the concepts to their peers performed significantly better than those who just read quietly, right?
Way better.
Yeah.
Because when students explain concepts to each other, they are forced to negotiate that common ground. They quickly align their technical vocabularies through those adjacency pairs.
The mm-hms and the yes.
Exactly. And this active alignment builds a robust, shared situation model, which is an internal, highly detailed mental representation of the concept.
So they build it together.
Right. Constructing that model together dramatically boosts individual reading comprehension and long-term retention.
You know, that shifts the entire paradigm of how we view communication. It proves that information transfer isn't just passive data delivery. You aren't just handing a digital file to someone else's brain.
Not at all.
It is a dynamic, physical co-creation. The textbook actually includes this beautiful quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes. He said, "Language is the blood of the soul into which thoughts run and out of which they grow."
That's a great quote. Emily Dickinson echoed the same sentiment, actually, when she wrote, "A word is dead when it is said, some say. I say it just begins to live that day."
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, the active, messy grounding of words is what bridges the gap for learners. It's why studying with a peer and actively talking through a difficult theory is vastly superior to solitary cramming.
Because you are forcing that interactive alignment.
Exactly. You are forcing it to physically map the new concepts onto your brain.
Okay, so that situation model is incredibly powerful for collaborative learning. But there's a dangerous flip side to this, isn't there?
There absolutely is.
Because that exact same drive to align with our peers to build that common ground is what forces us to draw a hard line between who is in our group and who is out. We use that exact same synchronization to relentlessly police group boundaries.
Right. Because gossip demands categorization. Since gossip allows us to forge survival alliances, it requires us to constantly delineate who is in our favorite in-group and who belongs to the detached out-group.
Us versus them.
Exactly. And this categorization manifests in a subtle, subconscious grammatical shift called the linguistic intergroup bias.
Okay, so I understand the theory of an in-group and an out-group. We all do that.
Yeah.
But how does our grammar actually change when we talk about them? Are we literally using different verbs?
We actually are. It all hinges on the difference between abstract adjectives and concrete verbs.
Okay, break that down for me.
So when a member of our in-group, say a close friend or someone from our own neighborhood, does something positive, we describe it using abstract adjectives.
Yeah.
Might say, he is a generous person.
Using the adjective generous.
Right. By using an adjective, we frame their goodness as a permanent, enduring personality trait. It's who they fundamentally are.
Okay.
But if that same in-group member does something negative, we unconsciously switch to concrete verbs. We say, he yelled at the waiter.
Oh, I see. Which frames the negative behavior as a specific, isolated action.